focus. It's lost about 10% after releasing its fourth quarter numbers. Numbers came out, remember, last Friday. While the company reported a good but inline set of numbers, it seems the street is spooked on the flat performance of the biologics business on a quarter-on-quarter basis. And there are question marks in terms of the prospects of the biosimilar business and what it's going to look like going forward. We've got, as promised, Ekta to kind of first up outline the positives, the negatives, what the street is worried about, and then we'll take it with our bull and bear. Ekta, over to you.
Hi, thanks for that. Well, I'll start exactly with the positive side, the bull case for Biocon. Now, remember that in Q4, it saw strong traction in the biologics business. So the biologics or the biosimilar business was up 87% on a year-on-year basis in Q4. Now, remember that the Biocon Myelin Pegfilgrastim market share also has risen all the way to around 20% in the US. Plus, in Q4, besides biosimilar, they saw strong traction in the research services business, which is basically Syngene, which was up 30-odd%. It's around 34% of their total sales. There was significant margin expansion in Q4 due to a better product mix. Gross margins were up 870 basis points for Biocon in the previous quarter to 64%. The company has guided that revenue momentum as well as core EBITDA margins will sustain going forward, and this is despite higher R&D costs. Now, important triggers for FY20 for Biocon include the launch of trastuzumab biosimilar in the US, full year benefit of Pegfilgrastim sales in the US, plus 3 launches in the European Union. So why is the street a bit worried? Remember, the stock is very close to its 52-week low as well. Now, remember that the biosimilar revenue was flat on a Q-on-Q basis at around $63 million in Q4. The numbers on a Q-on-Q basis were flat despite 3 launches in the past 6 months in developed markets. So they launched Pegfilgrastim in the US, trastuzumab, and insulin glargine in European Union. Now, there is fears of additional competition as Sandoz is expected to launch Pegfilgrastim in the second half of CY19. Plus, there is a fear that this pricing environment could then substantially worsen in terms of revenues and prospects for the likes of Biocon. Trastuzumab, the company is still to launch, but it's expected that there could be 4 players by October of 2019. The company, remember, guided for higher R&D costs, so the street is a bit worried. And valuations are punchy, 29 times FY20 earnings and around 24 times FY21 earnings. It's the most expensive stock within the pharmaceutical space.
Okay, Ekta, thanks very much for that. So that's essentially the reasons to be bullish and reasons to be bearish on Biocon, 2 sides of the coin, right? Let's bring in our bull on Biocon. Let's introduce our bear on Biocon as well. Prakash Devan is taking the bullish view. Vishal Manchanda, Pharma Analyst at Nirmal Institutional Equities, is taking the bearish view on the name. Thanks very much, both of you, for joining us. Prakash, you heard Ekta, so she gave us reasons to be bullish and bearish.
Yeah.
What makes you bullish about Biocon?
So when I heard Ekta, she did sound, the underlying this thing was bullish, so I'll go with that. On a serious note, and of course Vishal and Ekta both have the advantage of being able to pronounce these tongue twisters that I won't be able to contribute to. But there are a couple of very simple things that have happened in Biocon, and one of the reasons why it is closer to its 52-week lows is the stock had always built very high expectations, and what you're seeing is probably a rationalization of the expectations, and hence the move downwards, maybe 10%, let's suppose, the numbers, which are not bad at all. But the expectations that kept on building up was that this was a non-linear growth trajectory that biologics would clock. Unlike that, what we've seen the whole year, 145% growth in revenue, not bad. Valuations look not at all compelling because of the change that's happened. What you need to now start factoring in is that all these launches that they have in US, in Europe, some of the unregulated or lesser regulated markets, is probably going to be giving enough visibility. And if there are a couple of triggers like the turnaround in the Malaysian unit or the way they're expanding into some of the newer alliances, I think the peer group internationally also is something that you could look at. Celltrion and all go as high as 50, 55 times P, bands on P multiples. So we're not living in a stage where it could probably be unreal to expect Biocon to get valued or continue getting valued richly. But yes, I do understand competition is coming in significantly. It's no more the gravy train that it used to be. But I would still believe that it would continue to be higher in terms of valuation than conventional pharma companies. And I remain fairly positive on it because of these counts.
Okay. Vishal, what's your opinion? Because we're going to see competition come in for trastuzumab as well as for pegfilgrastim in the US. So how much do you think earnings could probably reduce or versus what the consensus is on the street currently?
So, as we know, the US market is the way it is like it gets commoditized over time. So, we are now in the early phase of launches. So, Biocon was lucky enough to have got the opportunity to launch Neulasta as a first player. Although it wasn't the first filer. Earlier, the anticipation was it would be the fourth or fifth player on the market. So, but others faltered on execution and Biocon did it better than others. So they could launch it earlier. But now if we look at the next 12 months, we might see 4 or 5 other players and even more players coming into the Neulasta market. So the quantum of price erosion that we could see is to the extent of 70-80%. So whether at those prices will the market allow them to make enough profits is the question we have. So is it going to be as attractive in terms of profitability as it is now, maybe 12 months down the line? Then coming to the other launches they have lined up. So trastuzumab is where they again have an approval, but there are 3 others who also have an approval, and a fourth player is closely awaiting an approval. So we'll see 5 players in all in trastuzumab space. In addition, there's going to be a difference in terms of how trastuzumab will be a difficult opportunity to execute because it's an oncology molecule and acceptance will be very gradual. So we'll also have to factor in the slow ramp up in our numbers. So overall, I think the valuations build in a better scenario than it's actually going to be.
Okay. But Prakash, do you think that these kind of valuations will probably sustain for Biocon going forward if in case maybe next quarter or a couple of quarters down the line when competition really hits them, will the market really provide these kind of punchy valuations that it currently trades at?
No, I do accept, and I take Vishal's point that this is no more the sweet spot that Biocon was possibly in. It found itself, let's say, about 18 months, 24 months back when there were lots of blue sky territory that it was getting into. And now because the reason competition is growing is because there's enough meat on the bone, there's enough margins, there's enough growth for this segment. But where Biocon stands out is they've strategized to widen their portfolio of products through alliances. And which means that the fact that in the last 5 years they've been able to work only on 2 or 3 launches largely. Now that pace could change and they could probably have parallelly about 4 or 5 more coming in, which means that they'll be able to take on competition but widening their product mix itself and de-risking themselves. So you would have to understand that the company is not going to continue doing what it did, let's say 2 years back. It will reorient itself to face the competition, which is very clearly visible. So, and I think it's a smart management. They have Syngene to kind of, ramp up, and it's backing it up. It's firing on all cylinders as well. So I don't see any reason why it would disappoint us too much on the earnings growth trajectory. Yes, the multiples could probably not be as punchy as they have been traditionally, but still if you were to scale them down, you could give it a target of about a price objective about 750, 770, that zone. I think that's a fair zone to expect in the next 12 to 18 months. We are not talking about something which is very superlative, but yeah, reasonably higher than rest of the market at this point.
Okay, all right. Prakash as well as Vishal, we're going to leave it on that note. Thanks very much for joining in. So let's see what the debate rages as going forward for Biocon. But Prashant, it seems as though there are two distinct schools of thought when it comes to Biocon and their biosimilar business and the prospects going forward. We'll take a break, but up next, F&O strategies lined up. Stay tuned.